Welcome back to Mastering Google Ads, and this is Module 3. Now, this is where we are actually going to start changing gears and get into some of the real practical elements that you need to complete for successful Google Ads campaigns. So far, we've gone through what is Google Ads. I then also took you through an overview of the different types of Google Ads campaigns that we're going to be focusing on. What we're talking about in this lesson is purely going through how to complete your keyword research in the right way. Now, in this module, there is also a screen share lesson where I'll take you through this process in a step-by-step way. So in this lesson, we are going to be giving you some overview, but I do want to just dive a little bit deeper into how to correctly use keyword research and how the different match types work inside of Google Ads. So with all that said, let's get straight into it and cover this lesson of keyword research done right. Now, one thing I will also just point out is that in the extras part of this course, there is a lesson which is called The Future and a Brief History of Google Ads. And it does go through how Google has fundamentally changed how Google keywords targeting operates. So if you want some further information on that, I do recommend that you go watch that extra lesson, which is in the extra training parts of this course. But we are just going to go through and do some reviews. And what I really want to highlight to you is you need to remember that Google now triggers your ads based on the meaning or user intent rather than the actual words in your keywords. So there's a lot to impact there. First of all, we're talking about the meaning. So obviously what we're looking at is not only looking at the actual keywords, it's the meaning of those keywords. One of the examples that we went through in the previous module is when people was doing a search for low carb diet, Google gave the example that could also trigger ads for Mediterranean diet. I've also seen cases where people are doing a search for motorcycle insurance and Google actually displayed their ad with certain competitors' names because it assigned the meaning. Now, the other part of this is user intent. So this one is even where it gets a little bit more murky. And what that basically is looking at is Google's taking on what the user has been searching previously in that search session. So this is where you will sometimes see, if you go through your search term audits, where you'll go, how did someone convert from that search term when it's got nothing to do with your targeted search term? And that comes back to the user intent. So there is now a lot more automated data rather than just the actual keywords. So the main thing I really want you to focus on is previously Google would really just focus on the words that you're targeting. Now it's the meaning of those words. So what this has meant is that all of your keyword targeting is much broader and wider than what it used to be before 2021. And that also is true for exact match keyword targeting. Nowadays, there is no exact way in Google Ads that you can really say we only want our search terms to target these keywords. It's impossible to do. So even if you're using exact match keywords, you still need to be going through and reviewing your search term audits, which if you don't know what search term audits are, we will be going through that in the optimization part of this course. So I do just want to share a strategy update. And once again, if you're new to Google Ads, you won't know anything different. But if you were involved in Google Ads before 2021, this does take time to get your head around and make sure that you're doing it in the right way. So for success with the new type of keyword matching, the 3 rules are: firstly, you're going to have less ad groups with more keywords in each ad group. What we're saying by that is no more SKAGs, so single keyword ad groups. What I mean by that is for a long time in Google Ads, success was found by having ad groups that just had one keyword in it. And what you would do, so you'd have a campaign and it would sometimes have 20 different ad groups in it, all built around single keyword ad groups where it would legitimately just have one exact match or one phrase match keyword. And then you'd go through and target it from them. That doesn't need to be done anymore. The reason for that is because what you end up finding is that if you were to have multiple key ad groups, so 10 different ad groups, is that Google would very, very quickly focus all the spending on 3 or 4 ad groups. So you don't need to separate ad groups for similar keyword themes. So historically, for 1-bedroom Seminyak villas and 1-bedroom Bali villas, you would have them in separate ad groups. Now they're going to be in the same ad group because Google would see those 2 phrases as the same meaning. And the way to think about it is because now Google's targeting is broader, we need to now make our ad groups more narrow to counteract that. So when Google had really tight targeting, you would have more ad groups to get more range. Now, because the actual keywords have a larger range and a wider targeting, we need to have less ad groups so that we can still keep them in the same theme. So it's all about having single theme ad groups, not single keyword ad groups. You want to also to focus on 1 to 3 broad match keywords with at least 3 keywords in them. And then from there, you want to build out a list of phrase or exact match keywords from your search terms report. But one thing I would say here is that it's actually more exact match. Very, very rarely will I now use a phrase match, and I'll explain that later. But I'm really focusing on ad groups with broad match keywords and then building out exact match keywords. The good news in all of this is that you do not need to complete extensive keyword research anymore. Now, keyword research is still required, but not to the level that what was previously needed. I know when we were doing keyword research, and this is probably from 2016 through to 2020, it would sometimes take 3 to 4 hours to complete keyword research because you would have to go through and to find out all the variations and then split them out into different campaigns and different ad groups. I had an extreme case where it was a super, super large account. And I think it took us a day and a half to complete the keyword research. And there was multiple campaigns, multiple ad groups. You don't need to go that deep with your keyword research anymore. So let's just talk about long tail broad match keywords. Now, many of you would be aware of the term of long tail. It's very much SEO term, but it's talking about longer keywords. So what we're saying here is we want to have keyword phrases that have at least 3, but ideally 4 or more words in them. And this is because Google, as I said, no longer targets your selected keywords. They target the meaning of your selected keywords. Now, this is the definition that Google gives, but the reason why I'm saying you want longer tail keywords is because every extra word in your phrase gives Google greater insight into the meaning of the search terms that you want to target. So, and this is an important note I want to give when you're selecting your initial keywords. Once again, especially for people who have had an experience with Google Ads before 2021. And this took me a while personally to get my head around, but after data, we saw this very, very clear. A longer tail broad match keyword phrase will have a tighter targeting than a short tail exact match keyword. Just think about that. So nowhere before in the history of Google Ads would anyone ever suggest that broad match has better targeting than exact match. But in this case, a longer tail broad match keyword will have a tighter targeting than a short tail exact match. So let me give you an example. The broad match of book a 1-bedroom Seminyak holiday villa would generate less unrelated traffic than 1-bedroom Seminyak villas. And the reason for that is because this broad match keyword, we've added in the extra words of book and also holiday. So we're giving Google very, very clear intent that what we're talking about here is we are talking about only Seminyak villas that can be booked for a holiday. Whereas 1-bedroom Seminyak villas, Google would also assign meanings around long-term rentals, around people who are wanting to rent a villa for a year or 2 years, or even potentially buy a villa. That's why it's really, really important now that you are using longer tail broad match keywords. And I'm going to also give some further reasons for this later in this lesson. Now let's talk about why you want to have broad match combined with exact match. And the reason for that is, as I said, I have 1 to 3 long tail broad match keywords, remembering them all having 4 or 5 words in them. Then add in extra exact match keywords from your search term audits. And the benefits of that is this. Firstly, you're getting more data at a keyword level. So when we come to search term audits, and if you don't know what I mean by that, is that when we come to optimize our account, you will see that there's 2 areas where you're seeing keyword data. Under the campaign data, you're seeing the actual keywords which you have targeted. And then you can go into the insight section and actually see the actual search terms that users have used. So keywords are the keyword phrases that you're targeting. Search terms are the search terms that the users actually used to target your ads. So when I mean that you get more data at the keyword level, what happens from there is that if you only have 3 broad match keywords, you don't really know the difference between them two because there's so many different variations. But when you add in extra exact match keywords, you're seeing the data at that keyword level, which will allow you to make some further decisions, especially around what's the best ad copy to have in your ads. Also to if you need to make any updates on your landing pages. Second thing is if you're using dynamic keyword insertion, which I'll show you how to do later in this course when we get into the ad copy section, your ads will have a highly targeted ad copy. Now, if you're unfamiliar, what dynamic keyword insertion does, as the name suggests, it inserts the keyword that triggered your ad into the top line of your ad copy. So if you build out a longer list of keywords, remembering that dynamic keyword insertion or DKI, it doesn't insert the search term, it inserts the keyword. So if you have more keywords that you're targeting, remembering the difference between keywords and search terms, by having more keywords, there's much more greater chance that the user is going to see a very, very close variant of what they searched in your ad. And we know from lots and lots of data that if people see what they've searched in the ad, it's giving them confidence that this is going to take them through to what they've been searching for. The other thing to remember, and this is why you need some broad match keywords, is because 15% of all searches are new in that they've never been searched before. And this is only going to grow as Google gets more and more automated and as Google leans into more broad match targeting. What you are going to see is, especially when Google moves over to more of a conversational style search with greater tools like ChatGPT and really affecting how people complete searches, this percentage of new searches is going to increase. So it's going to be harder to really define your keyword list if you don't know what people are searching, because they're searching new things. So by having broad match, it allows you to find potentially new profitable keyword themes. And the final benefit is having extra keywords means that Google will provide data for those keywords, reducing the amount of other search terms in the search terms report. So what you find is when you get to the search terms report, Google now only gives you data on what it deems significant. And unfortunately, what is happening is that this list of other search terms is getting larger and larger. So as an advertiser, we're less and less aware of the actual search terms that people are using. However, if you add it as a keyword, Google has to give you that data because you're seeing the data at the keyword level. That's another benefit of really having a longer list of exact match keywords. So the way that I want you to think of this is that you're starting with a couple of broad match keywords and then you're building out exact match keywords based on the data that you receive. So this leads us to the big question of how many keywords. And a common question that people ask me is how many keywords per ad group. Now, there is no exact number here as it depends on the individual keyword theme. Remember, the goal with Google Ads is to group keywords that have the same meaning together in the same ad groups. For those of you who watched the first module, you'll remember that was a big theme of the first lesson of this course, was all about the success with Google Ads. You want to have the most relevant ads, taking people to the most relevant landing pages from their initial search. So what you want to be doing is there's no exact number in how many keywords per ad group. It's more got to do with how many keywords can you group together in the same theme so that they have super relevant ad copy and super relevant landing pages. So now let's talk about how to start your keyword research. And the way that I start it is that I just write down a list of keywords that I'd use to find the product or service. I know that might seem quite old school, but what I always say to clients, when you're wanting to start your keyword research, just grab a bit of paper or do it in a Google Doc or your notes section of your computer and just write down a list of keywords of what you would search to find your product. So another way of phrasing that is, if you were to Google your business, what would you Google? What would you type into the Google search? So step one in completing keyword research is to open your notes or Google Docs and just start writing down a list of phrases that you would type into Google to find the product or service that you're advertising. And after we have our list, step two is to use the Google Ads research tool. So the Google Ads keyword research tool. And here's some screenshots. Now, as I said, we're going to be going through a step-by-step screen share. But the way that you would find this is that you go into tools and settings. Now, I've still got the old dashboard. There is a new updated dashboard. When we do the keyword research, I'll show you in the screen share on how this works on the new dashboard. But I wanted to have both versions because I know some people still have this version of it. But you go to tools and settings. And then where you want to be going is to your keyword planner. At all times, if you ever get lost with this, it's just use the search tool, which you'll find in the top, and just type in keyword planner and that will take you there. Even in the new dashboard, it's still called keyword planner. And then what you want to do is you want to go into discover new keywords. Then what we do from there is that we go through, we enter in the website of our initial keyword list. So grab those 5 to 10 keyword searches and just copy them. So that's why I put them into a Google Doc or a note. So just can copy them. And if you have them on different lines in your Google Doc or on your notes, they'll appear as the individual sort of keyword searches. And then you also add in your website and then click on get results. Now, this is where it's been updated and this is switching over to the new keyword planner. So then you search different keywords by reviewing the data using filters to add keywords to your plan. So what you can do from here is what you'll initially see is you'll see the keywords that you've provided and it'll give you some data around the average monthly searches. It goes through some data around 3-month change and year-on-year change. What that's looking at is, if you're seeing, the top one, Seminyak Villas, with a plus 22, this mark in here, that lets us know that over the last 3 months, we've seen a 22% increase in that search term or in that keyword. And then it's obviously year on year, how it's changed each year. And then the competition score is a 3-level score, low, medium, and high. And it's just a really low level explanation of how many other people are competing for these terms. And then when we get to the live screen share, I'll show you, you'll also get to see some CPC data. The next thing that you can actually do, and this is a new feature, is that you can actually refine the keywords. And what you can do through here is if you wanted to remove any brands, if you wanted to remove any places. Now for this, because it's location based, it'll say places. Other times, if it's like an e-commerce product, you can remove variations like the materials or the sizing. So what you can do is that you can exclude these different refinements or add these extra refinements. And what that does is that just lowers the list of keywords. And then what you want to do is once you've selected your keywords, so you go through and click on here in the blue little tick boxes, you add keywords to create your plan. Once again, remember to look for keyword phrases that have at least 3 keywords, but ideally 4 or more that can be your core broad match keywords. So what I've got through here is I've gone through and having a look at these keywords, and I'm going through and choosing these as my broad match keywords. Now, there's some other ones that we could use in here, holiday villas for rent in Seminyak down the bottom, but the reason why I didn't select it is because there just wasn't as much data. The other thing I would just remind you of for this as well is, especially now that the way that we're building this out, in that with your ad groups, when they start, we will be building to these keyword lists. So don't think this keyword research is going to be the only time you do it for your campaign. This is just the starting list. So what we're really looking at doing is building out a starting list, because when we go through our optimization process, we're going to be building to this keyword list by adding in extra exact match keywords as we go along. So then after you've downloaded the keyword list, you need to break your keywords into different keyword themes using the one keyword theme method, which I'm going to show you about very soon. And then from there, you break your different keyword themes into different campaigns or ad groups. So you're firstly grouping the keywords together, then you're grouping them into either ad groups or campaigns. Remembering, each ad group will start with 1 or 2 broad match keywords that have 3, ideally more words in each broad match phrase. Because remember, after you have started your campaign, you add in more exact match keyword phrases that have good conversion data. And as I said, we're going to be showing you this in the optimization lesson. So what you do from there is you then download them into a CSV file. You can also do this in Google Sheets and take the time to break your keywords out into different campaigns and ad groups using the one keyword theme method, or STAGs. Now, one thing that I will just note here, the difference between what keywords you group together in your campaigns and into your ad groups really come down to what controls or levers you want to have in your business. Let me give you an example for this one. This one is for our villa resort business. And the reason for why we've broken it into 1-bedroom villas and 2-bedroom villas as separate campaigns is because we have 7 1-bedroom villas and we have 1 2-bedroom villa. And the owners of those villas actually pay for marketing budgets. So this 1-bedroom villa has got a much larger marketing pool. So the reason for why we broke it out into 2 different campaigns is because we've got a larger budget for 1-bedroom villas as opposed to 2-bedroom villas. So that's the main reason for why we've broken them out into 2 campaigns. I mean, we could put it all in the same campaign with different ad groups, but the reason for why we broke it out into different campaigns is because we need that lever to be able to control between the 2 campaigns. So when it comes down to the breaking it into campaigns or ad groups, there's no really right or wrong answer. What it really comes down to is what's best for your business. So that's why firstly, you break it into your ad groups. So you put the themes together first. And then when you've got your ad groups, then you break it into your campaigns. Because for a lot of businesses, they don't need that level of segmentation. They're happy to have the spending all in one place, and wherever they get the best results, that's where they'll spend the most money. Whereas for other businesses, you might have very valid reasons for breaking out different keyword themes into different campaigns. And it could be, as I said, the size of the marketing pool. It could also be seasonal. I've worked with some electricians before, and they've got campaigns for electrical appliance installations, and then they've got an air conditioning side of the business. And in Australia here, the air conditioning side of the business gets very busy leading into summer. As soon as we hit winter, it completely dies off. That's why we had 2 separate campaigns, because we wanted to be able to control the budget. So when it comes to this part, what you're really looking at doing is how can you best separate your budgets, or how do you need to separate your budgets at the campaign level? Remembering that your budget is set at the campaign level. All right, let's really dive into what I mean by the one keyword theme method. So this is where, as we said, we put 1 keyword theme into each ad group. Now, the reason for why this is beneficial is because it makes it easier to write keyword-focused ad copy for high-quality keyword scores. It also allows you to see very easily which keyword themes are more successful in generating conversions. So let's break down those first 2. So when we're talking about it makes it easier to write keyword-focused ad copy for high-quality keywords, remember what we said right at the start of this course. Success in Google Ads is all about having high quality ad copy, taking people to high quality landing pages that are relevant to their search. So what you can do in there, let's just use the example that we gave before. The reason why we also break up the ad groups to 1-bedroom villas and 2-bedroom villas is not only for the budget sense, but it's also as well so that we can have different ad copies for those keyword groupings and take them through to different landing pages. So our 1-bedroom keywords take people through to the landing page, which is all about our 1-bedroom villas. The 2-bedroom keywords take people through 2-bedroom villa landing page. Think of it this way: if you're an e-commerce brand and you sell men's t-shirts, there's shorts, there's like casual t-shirts and more formal t-shirts or more formal shirts. You wouldn't want everyone seeing the same ad copy, and you wouldn't want everyone going to the same landing page. So it's the big reason for why you break things out into different ad groups. The other reason why it's beneficial to have different ad groups is because if you see that there's certain ad groups or keyword themes which are just not being profitable and they're taking a lot of your budget, but you've got other ad groups which are highly profitable, you can actually just pause the ad group so you can put more spending into that other ad group. So that's another reason for why it's beneficial for really breaking it out into different campaigns and ad groups. It leads on to the next point is that you can easily pause underperforming keyword themes, and it also allows for easier reporting. And this is especially true when you use really good naming for your campaigns and naming for your ad groups. On that screen of the keyword research you saw before, I named my campaigns 1-bedroom villas, and then I had a 2-bedroom villa campaign, then also had a 1-bedroom villa ad group and a 2-bedroom villa ad group. So when we do our reporting, rather than just seeing campaign 1 or campaign 2 or ad group 3 or ad group 4, by naming your campaigns and ad groups, you can really see what those campaigns are about and what those ad groups are about without having to go into the actual ad groups and click on it to see the keywords to see what they're targeting. Let's now talk about why extended keyword phrases are better. So having broad match keywords with more words is beneficial. This gives Google more insight into the true meaning of the type of searches you're wanting to target. So let's just say, for example, a company that is wanting to promote its cloud-based gym management software that is also suitable for sports clubs. So that's the example we're using. So if they had the keyword gym management software versus software for managing health clubs. And this is a real life example that we saw. We were running a campaign for this, and this is what we're seeing with these two different keywords. So the gym management software would target the wanted search terms, including fitness club software, gym management app, health club management software. This would also, these wanted keywords here, but it would also target the unwanted user search terms. And what we found in here, this is gym management software, would also go down the path of fitness apps because it assigned that meaning. But because we added these extra words in here, software for managing health clubs, it really took out the fitness app part of the search terms. Now, we still had to add in negative keywords, but what we did find is that the extra words in the broad match keyword assisted Google with better understanding of the meaning of the searches that you want to target. So people may say, well, why do you use broad match? And this is some data that I got from inside of a Google training tool. So I am sorry that the quality isn't as high on this image, but remember how we said user intent at the start of this keyword research? So it's not only looking at the meaning, but also user intent. This is what we're talking about here. What it is that broad match is able to leverage unique signals not available in other match types. So what Google looks at in terms of other signals to drive performance, it doesn't only look at the keywords, it also looks at the landing pages. It also can look at other keywords in the ad group, the user's previous searches, the predicted performance, and the user location. I want you to see here that broad match is the only one that takes into account all of these signals. So that's why I find it really beneficial to have the exact match working with broad match, 2 or 3 broad match keywords, then building out some exact match. And it's also the reason for why you may remember at the start of this lesson, I said, I don't use phrase match really anymore. The reason for that is because for me, I really see phrase match as a poor man's broad match because it's just as broad as broad match. It gives the same results, but what doesn't happen is you don't get these extra signals. So for me, stick with broad match and exact match. All right, now let's talk about how your keyword structure affects your campaign and ad structure. And it'll look like this. Is obviously you'll have your Google Ads account. You then have your different campaigns. The reason for why, remember, you set different campaigns is so you can better control the spending. Then you have your different ad groups underneath them. Then you have your keywords and then your ad copy and landing pages. So the power of this is that because we've got our keywords, which is based around 2-bedroom Seminyak villas, it'll have ad copy around 2-bedroom villas, taking them to the 2-bedroom landing page, whereas this one is all about 1-bedroom. So with the theme, you want to have a single theme going through your ad groups, from the keywords that you're targeting through to the ad copy they're showing through to the landing page that they're going through to. Now, I've already spoken about this a little bit, but I do want to let you know a little bit more about how you decide what to put into campaigns and what to put into ad groups. So your campaigns, think about budget control. Do you want to be able to have different daily budgets for different types of products or different types of services? Also think about the keyword volumes. Now, the reason why this is important is if you have an ad group with a niche keyword with low traffic volumes, you may want to separate these from ad groups with high traffic volumes. This can also especially happen for some service-based industries and also from e-commerce based stores where they may have some products or services that have a lower search volume but a much higher profit margin. So sometimes you may want to put these into different campaigns, because if you put the low volume but high profit services or products into other keyword themes or against other ad groups that have a high volume but a lower profit margin, the high volume traffic generally takes all of the spend. So when you're deciding to break things out to different campaigns, not only think about your budget control, also think about your keyword volumes. Remembering that there are really, really valid reasons for sometimes for why you want to break a keyword theme into its own campaign so that you can really make sure that it's getting the spending that you want it to get, especially if it's a low volume but a high profit product or service. And then also too, location targeting. This one does make a little bit, is probably easier to understand. And that may be the thing, you just want to have some different location targeting. And this could be for all different reasons. We've worked with franchise brands before and they have the same services, but they want to be able to change the budget dependent on the different franchise areas, because sometimes the franchises were giving different levels of marketing budget. So you want to be able to separate it out so that you can target it by different locations. And how do you decide what to put into different ad groups? And this really comes into your keyword quality or keyword theme. And it's all about, can you fit one keyword theme into the ad copy and quality score? So people were sort of saying, how many keywords per ad group? For me, it really comes down to how many keywords are fit into that keyword theme where the ad copy and the landing page is relevant. As soon as you start getting an ad group where the ad copy and the landing page isn't relevant for some of those keywords, that's when you need to break them into a different ad group. Now, I know a lot of people push me on this and they really want to know how many keywords per ad group. Now, as a really, really rough guide, I would say on average, I have about somewhere between 20 to 35 keywords per ad group. I do have some cases where we've only got 10 keywords. I've got other cases where we've got above 50 keywords. It really comes down to the service or the product that you're marketing. And really it's dictated around about, does this keyword still match the ad copy and the landing page? And if it doesn't match it, and if it's not relevant, that's when you need to break that keyword and other related keywords into a separate ad group so that you can have high quality ad copy and landing pages. And by high quality, I mean highly relevant. The other thing that you want to do is you want to limit ad group or what we call keyword bleeding. And what we're talking about that is we want to make sure that the same user search terms are not triggered by different ad groups. Now, the reason for why this is so important is because you want to have the same search terms really only being targeted by one ad group. And the reason for that is because let's just say you've got a group of keywords or search terms which are triggered by two different ad copies or two different ad groups. If you update the ad copy in ad group A and it gets a high click-through ratio and a high conversion rate, but then you're still getting that search theme or that search keyword being triggered by another ad group because it's bleeding into that one, you're kind of losing the benefit. So what you want to do, you don't want to have any keyword bleeding. So that way for certain keyword themes, you know that they're only being triggered by this ad group. So then you can do a complete optimization process. And now I just want to talk a little bit about search themes for Performance Max. So in Performance Max, it's the other campaign type that allows you to enter direct keyword targeting. As we said, search campaigns is direct keyword targeting. Shopping, the keyword targeting comes from your product titles, display and video. It's more about placements and audiences. But Performance Max, you use what's called search themes, not keywords. Now, I want to start with the Google definition. So search themes in Performance Max allow you to provide Google AI with valuable information about what your customers are searching for and which topics lead to conversions for your businesses. My interpretation is this: search themes are more like suggestions for where Performance Max should start. So they do not function the same way as keywords. So examples of how search themes help drive better results for Performance Max campaigns. Once again, this is coming from Google. So your landing page doesn't have complete details or the latest updates about the products or services that you offer. So if you're taking on an account and you can't update their website and they don't have lots of data on the website, this is where it helps Google by adding in, more search themes, because you're kind of giving Google some directions to say, hey, look, can you target these search themes or these very, very broad search topics? You've just expanded into a new market or launched a new product or service where your campaigns don't have performance history. You're launching a new promotional sale for a holiday season where you don't have extensive performance. See, these two are very much the same. Remember, it's all about if you've got a new market or a new promotion, you don't have any keyword data, what you want to be doing is adding in search themes, and you're really giving Google the idea of, hey, Google, go here and check out these search themes to try and find some conversions for us. You want to expand your reach within Performance Max, including on search inventory, and you ensure that you have a comprehensive coverage. So once again, this is all just about you saying if your website doesn't have all of the data, let's add in some extra search themes to assist Google. And you want to provide important information to help manage or ramp up and optimize your performance faster. The way that I really talk about this is when you optimize your Performance Max campaigns and you're seeing in the insights that certain search themes are getting good results, I'll add that search theme to the asset group. And it's really your way of just sort of like double confirming to Google, hey, Google, yes, keep going down this path. This is a good job. Or these are the type of keywords we want you to focus on. So let's just now go through how you decide what to put into your different campaigns and asset groups in Performance Max. A lot of this will be the same. Once again, around about budget control, around about location targeting. And into your asset groups, it's all around keyword targeting, but this is more what are the most logical keywords to target these products. Now, remember they'll default to broad match targeting, but it comes down to the second one of image, videos, and ad assets. So it's all about with my asset groups, if I've got a certain array of images, videos, and ad assets that I know are best suited to these search themes or these keyword targeting groups, I'll add them in asset groups together. So once again, it really comes back to trying to really structure your account or structure your campaigns in a way where the user can see the most relevant ads, in Performance Max case, which is also images and videos, and go through to the most relevant landing pages. Okay, so that's a background on how to approach keyword targeting. The biggest thing I really want you to take home is that your keyword targeting is now much broader, and Google now targets the meaning, not the actual keywords. So if you only think of one thing from this lesson, is just have that drilled into your head that with your keyword targeting, even exact match keyword targeting, it's not targeting the keywords that you're entering, it's targeting the meaning of those keywords. So in the second part of this module, I'm going to be taking you through the screen share, so a step-by-step guide to show you how to do the keyword research. But in our next teaching module, we're going to be heading over to the exciting topic of ad copy, and I look forward to seeing you in those next lessons very soon.